Hey guys, YouTuber 100 here, and now I'm gonna review Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, I went to go see this tonight on the big screen. Yeah, this was playing at the movie theater for one night only and one showing only. Yeah, I went to go see it. Yeah, this movie is so freaking awesome right here. Yeah, I mean, this is just a awesome movie right here. I mean, this is like one of the best horror movies of all time. I mean, I just really liked it, and yeah. Seeing it on the big screen also was really great too. So, yeah, this was a awesome movie. I give this 4 stars out of 4. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this was obviously Nightmare on Elm Street's obviously about Freddy Krueger going to kill people in their dreams. Yeah. And in this movie, very first one, you don't really see like a lot of Freddy Krueger, but yeah, he's still like they still do mention him a lot. Not in here, yeah. Yeah, but if you out of all the time Freddy Krueger was in the movie, he was probably just like in it for maybe like less than half of the movie. But yeah, this was still a good movie. As I said, 4 stars out of 4. So yeah, let's get right into the review. Alright, so the movie starts off with Freddy Krueger, for like putting on his stuff with the razor glove and the hat. As the main titles roll, we see one of the girls, Tina, just like walking around inside like some kind of power supply center or something. And we see like Freddy Krueger kind of like following her, stalking her or something. And then we see Freddy Krueger's about to kill her, but then it was a nightmare and Tina woke up. And yeah, we saw that her nightgown was scratched and torn. And it came from the dream. Her mother said she's got to stop dreaming about that stuff. And the next morning, Tina is with her friends, who's the main character, Nancy, and then her Nancy's boyfriend, Glenn, who's played by Johnny Depp. Yeah, Johnny Depp's first movie right here. Yeah. And then Tina's boyfriend, Rod, came also. Tina told him about the dream she had. And Nancy said that he was had a dream also. And then that night, Nancy and Glenn were staying in the night over at Tina's. And Nancy told Tina that she had a dream too about yeah, someone with like a claws for fingers, and they made like a really bad screeching noise, also with a dirty red and green sweater. Yeah. And then Glenn heard a noise outside. He went to go check it out, and it was just Rod. Sneaking up on Glenn. He jumped out of nowhere and tackled Glenn. And then, yeah, Rod and Tina went up to Tina's parents' bedroom and they had sex. And then they went to sleep. Then Nancy was sleeping in Tina's room. We saw like Freddy Krueger. He was like, we saw him like pressing against the wall or something. We saw him like trying to come through the wall or something. And it was like woke Nancy up. And yeah, then the wall went back to normal. Then Tina, and she was hearing stuff. She heard like twigs snapping, and she saw something on hitting the windows. Then she went out to go check it out. And then she came across Freddy Krueger. Then Freddy chased her back over to the house. Then it woke Rod up. Yeah, it was a dream Tina was having. And then we saw Freddy was underneath the blanket going after Tina. Then Rod pulled the blanket off. Freddy Krueger was gone, but Tina was still being killed or something. Yeah, yeah, we saw Freddy's claws just scratch. We didn't actually see Freddy's claws, but we saw the scratching. Yeah, and then Tina was raised up in the air and she was spinning around. She nailed Rod down. And then Tina was just being dragged across the ceiling, and Rod was constantly screaming, "Tina." Then Glenn and Nancy came up to the room. They saw that Tina was bleeding and dead. And then Nancy's father and one of the other cops, who was actually played by the same guy who was the sheriff in Scream, they went down, and then Nancy's parents were questioning Nancy over at the police station, asking what she was doing over there at Tina's house. And Nancy told them that Tina had a dream, about what happened. Then the next morning, Nancy didn't get a lot of sleep, and her mother said that she shouldn't go to school. And Nancy was just telling her that she'd sleep in study hall and she'd come home right after. As she was flying to school, she saw some guy at a tree, kind of like spying on her or something. And when she looked back, the guy was gone. And then Rod came out of nowhere out of the bushes and pulled Nancy in. And he was telling Nancy that he's not the one who killed Tina. And he told her what he saw with the scratching. Yep. And then Nancy's father came up. And then Rod tried to run away, but the police had him surrounded and they took him to jail. And Nancy's father asked her what she was even doing going to school. But then Nancy just ran off. Then, in one of Nancy's classes at school, she started to drift off and fall asleep. Then she saw Tina's dead body in like one of those body bags. And then she went out of the class to go follow it. And yes, there was like a trail of blood, and she went following it. And then she went to like some kind of power supply area with a bunch of pipes and chains and stuff. She was trying to find where Tina was, and then Freddy came up and he was chasing Nancy. Then Nancy was cornered, and Freddy was about to get her something, and then Nancy was screaming, and then we cut back to the classroom where she was just screaming, and she attracted all the other classmates, and she was just going crazy. And then the teacher woke her up, and then Nancy left school. Then she went to go see Rod in jail. Rod was just still telling her, Nancy, what he saw happen to Tina. And then that night when Nancy was in bed, Glenn was on her trellis and came in. And Nancy told Glenn that she had a plan. And then it just like faded to black before he said what her plan was. Then we saw Nancy like walking down to the jail with Glenn watching her. And when she got to the jail, she saw Freddy was there. He was going after Rod. And as Nancy kept calling to Glenn, there was no response. And then Freddy tried to go after Nancy. And Freddy chased Nancy back up to her room where Glenn was sitting there sleeping. And then when Nancy woke up from the dream, she then got after Glenn for falling asleep because she told him to stay up and if anything suspicious was going on to wake her up. And then later on, Nancy and Glenn went down to the police station. She asked if they could see Rod. And then Nancy was just telling her father that she wanted to see him. And then in Rod's cell, Freddy made one of Rod's bed sheets into a rope or something, and he wrapped it around Rod's neck and then choked him and hung him. And then they got in and they saw Rod was dead. And they showed Rod's funeral. And as Nancy and her mother were leaving, Nancy's father told the mother that she should just keep Nancy home for a few days, and then the mother said that she was gonna get Nancy some help. Then it went over to like a dream clinic or something where they were gonna sleep test Nancy or something to see what her dream was. They attached a bunch of wires to her, and as they were testing her, Nancy was having a dream about Freddy. We didn't see any of the dream. We just saw Nancy like really just moving around. And then when they went over to wake her up, they saw that she had her arm scratched, and they had Freddy. Nancy had Freddy's hat. And then later on, back at home, Nancy was telling her mother that she saw the name was in the hat and it said Fred Krueger. Yeah, for the first couple of movies they just called him Fred Krueger, not Freddy Krueger. But Nancy's mother was telling her that he couldn't have done it because he's dead. Then later on, Nancy's mother told Nancy the story about Freddy, that he was that he was a guy who kidnapped children and killed them, and then he was eventually burned alive by the parent. And so those dead children, as well as other parents, and that he's dead and he can't get her, and she even had his razor glove. Yeah. Then that night, Nancy told Glenn that she had another plan of being at her house at midnight, and Nancy was just staying up that night. She was just taking whatever she could to keep her awake, like some wake aid pills and some coffee. Then as Nancy tried to call Glenn, Glenn's parents answered, said that Glenn's dad said that Glenn was asleep and Nancy would have to wait till morning to tell him what. Then he hung up, and then he took the phone off and just kept it off the line so Nancy couldn't call back. As Nancy tried to break out of the house, she couldn't because there were a bunch of bars on the doors and windows to keep Nancy in. So that night, while Glenn was on his bed, just kind of starting to drift off, Freddy then pulled old Glenn into the bed, and then afterwards there was a bunch of blood splurting out of the bed, and really, was there really that much blood in the human body? Then the police came down. Nancy's father and the guy who was the sheriff in Scream was there. And then Nancy called her father, said to be over at her house in like 20 minutes because she was going to get Freddy in the real world and they should be ready to arrest him. So then Nancy then went to sleep and had a dream. And she basically went back to the same place she was when she had that dream in her class. Yes, and then she saw like other things. She saw like like what Tina was wearing when she was killed, and Glenn's headphones he had on when Freddy pulled him into bed. And then Freddy popped up, chased Nancy down, like to the front. Nancy like jumped off of a staircase in that place, and it just like led to the outside of her house. Then she grabbed onto Freddy, and just as the time expired, or something for her father and the police to come, she grabbed a hold of Freddy, and it brought Freddy to the real life world. And at first Nancy thought that he didn't come and she was crazy, but then Freddy then did pop up, and Nancy went over to the door screaming for her father to come home. Then Freddy chased Nancy like down to the basement or something, and Nancy like broke a jug of gasoline onto Freddy, and then took a match and lit Freddy on fire. And then as her father and the police came to the house, Freddy wasn't in the basement, but they saw burning footprints leading up to Nancy's mother's room. And then when they got there, Freddy, while he was still on fire, was like raping the mother or something, and Nancy's father covered it up with a blanket, Then when he took it off, Freddy was gone and her mother was burned to death, and she just like sank into the mattress, like right through it. Then when Nancy sent her father downstairs, and when the door was closed, Nancy was by herself. Freddy then came back up through the mattress, and then Nancy told Freddy that she knows that it's just a dream, and that she knows Freddy too well now, and that she wants her friends back, and she takes back every bit of energy she gave him. Then Nancy turned around, and Freddy just disappeared out of nowhere. Then when Nancy opened the bedroom door, just like came outside, and it's like none of that happened. And Nancy's mother was back, and then so was Glenn and Rod and Tina. And as Nancy went to the car with Glenn, Rod, and Tina, it was actually possessed by Freddy. There was the red and green striped top, and then the windows rolled up by themselves. Glenn said he wasn't doing it, and then they drove off. And then the movie ended with Freddy sticking his arm through the door glass and then just pulling Nancy's mother in. And that's how it ended. And it would continue the storyline to the third movie, but not the second. The second one was just standalone. Yeah, but the storyline with Nancy and Freddy continued in the third movie. Alright, so yeah. Like I said, 4 stars out of 4. It was great seeing this movie on the big screen at a movie theater. So yeah. So yeah, that does it for this review of Nightmare on Elm Street. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.